Here we go with another small business safari episode, Alan. I'm looking forward to this one. I am pumped up. It's about numbers, which I think I'm pretty good at because I like asking my final 4 questions.
And you still have all 10 fingers.
Right? Yeah. I do. 1, A, B, 7, 7, 6, 4. Oh, no. Thank God we got somebody on who can help us. But before we get to him, Alan, somebody had a Big Daddy weekend, and it wasn't Chris. And here's how I found out that Alan is, of course, we all know he's an accomplished chef. He's a good cook.
No, cook.
He's a cook.
I'm not a chef. I'm not trained.
All right. Yeah. So we were laying down some trailers for some of the podcast stuff that we're doing, and we send Alan a note saying, "Alan, check this video out." And he goes, "Hey, I just placed 7th in a professional chili cook-off." I'm like, "You didn't even tell me." He goes, "Well, because the episodes are always all about you." I'm like, "Well, as they should be." I said, "But you can still tell me."
I think you're embellishing a little bit.
But you kicked it, man.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, and so why I tie in the chili cook-off, that you came in here in Atlanta, went out to Madison, Georgia, went out there and did a non-traditional chili. And I think that's the coolest part of everything there is that you went not the traditional chili route.
And I would argue that I had the most traditional chili because everybody in the national circuit, they use ground chuck, they use a bunch of store-bought spices, and we seeded, toasted, steeped, pureed, strained, and smoked over 500 chilies. It was 16 man hours just to prepare the chilies. And then it was, there was nothing out of a jar.
So I love that because this is the gold nugget before we get to our guest. And I'm going to tie this all back in, and he's been patiently waiting. We appreciate that. But here's why. You prepared, you planned, you executed, you sweat your butt off. You say you're traditional, but you, as you know, you were unique when you went there. So to be a unique person in your marketplace, to do what you got to do, you got to plan, prepare, and go out there and do it. But you went against the grain and didn't even know you were being being entered into the professional category. You thought you were going out there just for a buddy and helping him out and doing your thing. Next thing you know, 7th out of 15, 7th out of 12.
So there were 28 teams. Yeah. So I thought we were just going to do a small town chili cook-off. And it's been going on 17 years. It's actually part of the Chili Appreciation Society International National Circuit. And so you're awarded points. The top 10 teams are awarded points, kind of like Formula One.
Nice.
And then we found out, and we'd practiced 3 times because the kind of chili we make takes a long time to make. So how do you make it in a shorter amount of time? Well, then we found out we had to turn into the professional judges after 3 hours, not 4. But the fact was, we planned it out so well. It was just flawless. And they had live music going, and we're swapping drinks with the tent next to us. And it wasn't until, and my friend who got us involved in it, he was our barker and serving the chili. We served over 500 servings of chili. But when he started getting feedback like, "You guys do this all the time. Where can we find you? How can we follow you on social media? How can I buy this? Hey, I own a restaurant. Can you give me the recipe?" That kind of thing. And all of a sudden he just started going to town, and it was a blast.
All right.
Yeah.
Now that was awesome. And here's my tie-in.
Yeah.
Because what state in our 50 states here in the United States says I am the king of chili?
Texas.
And who do we have on the phone with us and in the podcast room today? We have Charles Reed from Texas. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Chris, Alan. Thank you.
I don't know if Charles is a chili aficionado, but what I will tell you is that we were adding this up, getting his bio together. He's been in business for himself for over 30 plus years, been in business for 50 plus years, has a wealth of knowledge and experience helping people with financials. He's a CPA. He can help people with payroll, HR, has written 4 books. Yep. But what we really want to know before we get into all that stuff is, what's your favorite chili?
My favorite chili I ever made. My daughter was working at Bennigan's, and they made prime rib, and she would take all the leftover prime rib bones, and we cooked those down for a pot of chili, and I seasoned it with real chili because I'm like you. I'm a cook, not a chef. I'm a cook. So we roast our own chilies and grind them and so on. But it was basically prime rib chili.
Outstanding. Wow. Look at,
oh my God.
If you can see, Charles' eyes are rolling.
Charles just rolled back. My mouth is watering. Charles goes back. He goes back to that happy place. You just saw that happy place look on his face. We all did, because who doesn't want to have a little bite of prime rib chili right now?
That was the best pot of chili we have ever made.
That is awesome. Well, Charles, thanks so much for coming on the podcast with us, indulging us with a little chilly conversation. For the audience, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk a lot about what he offers and what he does today, but I got to go back to the very beginning. So, Charles, how did you get started in this business?
Well, let's go back a little further. I got out of high school in Iowa. I joined the Marine Corps, spent 4 years in the Marine Corps.
Thank you for
Thank
service.
you.
When I got out of the Marine Corps, I realized that my skills I had learned in the Marine Corps weren't valued in business, even though I was a IBM trained computer programmer and systems engineer. But people who haven't been in the military don't understand what military brings to the table. So I went and got my degrees, BBA, MBA, sat for and passed my CPA exam while I was still in graduate school. Went to work for Texas Instruments.
Whoa, that's a blast from the past. TI,
Sure
baby.
is.
Yep, TI here in Dallas.
So that's
Spent
that's obviously not a small business. That's a
Nope.
big business, especially when you started with them. So what did you go to do there?
Well, I was a financial analyst. I stayed there about 18 months and moved on, picked up a assistant controller spot and moved up through the ladder. I spent 15 years, worked for big and small. I worked for pennies. I worked for other companies, did some startups, did some turnarounds, which was a lot of fun, though dangerous.
When he said I worked for pennies, it took me a second. JC Penney.
JC Penney.
JC Penney's. Yeah.
You didn't work for pennies, right? At that point.
No, I worked for JC Penney's. I also did a turnaround in North
I
Carolina.
got that.
Like, took you a second.
Which-
Right,
which-
but you went in and out of the big companies and startups. You,
Yeah.
you were. Oh wow.
I
So
did all kinds of things.
as you applied
the-
your
the-
skills that way, why did you bounce so much around?
Well, I was moving up the ladder.
Yeah. Nice.
Getting better pay, more position, more authority. My final job was, really part owner of a startup, and it didn't work. We got bought up. It was part of a startup within a Fortune 500 company who was had asbestos problems, and so they shed everything. But I realized I was never going to get to the top in a major corporation because I didn't have the political skills. I'm unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So 30 some odd years ago, the wife and I started our own firm.
Holy cow! So, so you started in Texas, started moving around. You said North
Mhm.
Carolina, so you just kept moving the fam around, just kind of doing your thing, figuring out.
Well,
how to do it.
the kids were grown. When I married Ruth, she had 5 children. She was 10 years older than I was. I was 21. She was 31. My youngest was 6.
Okay.
So by the time I started my own firm, they were grown, which made life a lot easier. Thank you. But Ruth and I started it together. It was not just me. And that made it easier to work because she knew how the hours we had to put in and what we had to do as entrepreneurs to be successful. It's one of the things I tell people if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're married, your spouse better be on board.
Yeah. Amen.
Otherwise, you're going to have real problems.
I was like,
Amen.
Your
and
fingers are crossed, Chris.
Yeah, amen, and exorcism coming soon. Yeah, so my wife said she was on board 16 years ago, and as we're finding out, not exactly. All right. Anyway, okay, let's back to this. So
You want me to call your therapist and set up an appointment while you finish the interview?
yeah, well,
Okay,
yeah,
all
it's
right.
coming soon. So you started your own business. You said, hey, look, we're going to do this. You're going to make the leap. To take us through again. You said 30 years ago, and I love it right now. Is here in Atlanta, people always say, "Well, my house was built 20 years ago," because 20 is like the magic long time ago number, right? That's
Right.
like I'm going to exit my business in 5 years, which is a forever number away from whatever you're going to do. So 30 years ago, here we are, 23. So you started late 90s,
I started early 90s. It was
early
91 we started.
90s. Right. Okay. So there we go. 91. See, wait a minute.
That's why you need a good accountant.
I know. Thank God I have him on the phone, on the podcast right now. Okay. All right. So did you guys build a business plan? Did you have clients? Tell us how you said, all right, we're leaping. Here we go.
Well, actually, I was working as chief operations officer for Financial Express, which was a franchise operation with mobile accounting service. And the board was after the company to get rid of the original operation. So I bought it, which gave me clients to start with. Not a lot, but some. So Ruth and I bought that, basically let everybody go, and we ran it. And
Nice. Well,
and
not
within a
nicely,
year,
but
the franchisor went belly up. The president was sleeping with one of the national sales girls, and the vice president wanted to be president and was going around his back to the board, and it all blew up and
That
collapsed.
sounds rather dysfunctional.
I would say that puts
Yes.
that puts the D in dysfunctional,
Yeah.
and that brings me back to one of my best gold nuggets I learned right away. Was never get your honey where you make your money. I got that figured out.
I have a similar phrase, but it's probably not apropos for the broadcast.
Let it rip.
Yeah, you have no idea what I can say.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Well, don't shit where you sleep.
Ah,
There we go.
there you go.
That's
Don't get
exactly
you
right.
All right. Gold nugget number one. Yep. If you got that temptation, man, that's why you run and you run fast. All right. So you
Yes.
started the biz. And what was the business that you bought, and what did you start?
Well, it was Financial Express. It was a mobile accounting service with a payroll sideline built in. We had vans. We ran around to local companies and did their books.
Oh,
So back early 90s. Yeah. Okay. That's why I was trying to figure those, because again, when we're all talking today, we're all on QuickBooks Online. You can have your accountant anywhere. That's why we're going to get into the business where you are now. You don't have to actually have them anywhere near your facility, but you had to
No.
go to their facilities, and that was your idea.
That's where we started. We did that for not too many years, and technology got where it just was no longer necessary to be there. And so that by the mid 90s, we moved into the internet and we started doing national work, and it just was silly to be doing mobile when you could sit in your office, and the time it took you to drive to a client, you could do a client in California. I mean,
Right.
just so we got rid of the vans and moved everything into the offices, and became a more traditional setting as such. But we were a national firm fairly early on.
Charles doesn't mess around.
I know.
He just makes a decision and just does it.
I could see that too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking he, like, Friday went, hey, wait a minute, I have this dial-up modem and I can make more money sitting right here than driving across Texas to look at this guy's books about his cows. He's like, screw it, gone. Vans are sold Monday. Dial-up modems are sitting in the office on Tuesday, and everybody's
We
I
were
don't
just
mind
past
it.
dial-up, but not much. I think the first modem I had in the office was a Hayes 1200 baud modem.
You know how old I am? I know that one.
You know what that is?
I do. Oh my God. And you thought that thing was screaming.
It was. It
It
was.
I know. Oh my gosh. All right. So you moved into that. You started building your clientele. Did you have an industry, a niche? How did you find that world?
No, we found accounting is accounting. I mean, there's some uniqueness in every business, and every business thinks it's unique, but it's debits and credits, it's income and expense. For us accountants, it's for small business, it's pretty much just accounting. I mean, your restaurants have tips and you associate costs differently in different industries, but it's money in, money out. It's small business. It's fairly basic. Some of the esoteric things I learned in graduate school I never use, but that's okay too.
Did you kind of cater to a small business or
Yes.
middle? Yeah. Okay.
No. We've always been a small business company. Our average client today, I think, is 17, but we've got a large percentage of our payroll clients, because we're now solely in the payroll business, are solo entrepreneurs.
Oh, really?
That they have a corporation, so they need to be employees, and they need a W-2, and they need to withhold and deposit funds. So we have a lot of single employers and a lot of small businesses. Our biggest client's probably 250 people, though we're probably bringing on a 600 one the first of the year.
Woo!
So were those small businesses who you had in mind when you started writing books?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's nothing for small businesses. My latest book is the Payroll Book, a guide for small businesses and startups. That's the title. There's nothing out there for small business on payroll. I looked. There's nothing out there. The nearest thing is from the American Payroll Association, and it's $600, and it's designed to train payroll specialists to pass the exams to become a certified payroll processor.
All right,
That's not what.
let's get into the payroll part, and then we'll come back to accounting. You can tell us all the mistakes that we all make, and I definitely have a few that I made. Payroll. When should I start using a payroll company, and why?
The first time you have an employee, whether it's you or you hire somebody, if you have a corporation or an LLC that's filing as an S corp, you're an employee if you work in the business. So you need a payroll company. It's not worth doing it yourself. The time you will spend on it, let alone the mistakes you will make because you don't know what you don't know, it ain't worth it. It's one of those things you should immediately outsource.
How long,
There's other things that
how
are
long did you wait, Chris, before you outsourced?
So and that's why I want to bring this up. So I waited 3 years, and I used to pull out the tables to figure out what my taxes were going to be. And I went from quarterly to monthly. And the minute I went to monthly, I was like, oh, no, actually, I back that up. And he'll know this better than me. When I went to quarterly, I went, oh my God, this is getting too hard. I had to get help. So that's when I said, okay, I'm in trouble, because that's the thing I found out. As I was learning, I didn't make the mistake, but I got the letter, and the letter said,
The letter from who?
oh, that's right, IRS, because we're the government and we're here to help. And they said, you have not paid your taxes. I'm like, oh, contraire, mon frere, in my best English. And that's not exactly what I said. I'm like, I sure as shit did. And I went to prove it. And then it was like getting in the bureaucracy hell. They're like, no, we never got your check. I'm like, no, the check has been cashed. No, you have to prove the check. So back, this is back in 2009, 10, right? And images, it was still fax shit that I had to do. I had to print them out, fax them, and send it to them. And so what are faxes? That's the communication that goes into communication hell, right? So you didn't know if they got it. And so I'm waiting.
It just curls up and rolls off their machine and
So I would
underneath it.
I would call somebody, and they're like, well, you faxed it, right? I was like, yes, I did. And then a month later, I got the message, your second notice, you will be getting, and I forget that it was like demand and interest. And I'm like, no, I paid it and I faxed the proof. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. I called my CPA at the time. He does payroll services, and I'm out. Get this. He goes, I got it. And I gave him all the info, and it all just magically went away.
Yep.
So that's why you don't want to do payroll yourself. It seems easy. It is. It could be. There's tables.
In theory.
Yeah. But guess who you're dealing with? IRS. Those guys, man, that's a defense right there. But back to football, I want them at 4th and 1, and I want them on my defense, because they are going to take these people out by their legs.
The only problem with having them on defense at 4th and 1 is you will never get anywhere.
That's what see. If you're on offense, you're losing, bro. You're out. You are giving that ball over, and you're getting taxed, and you're getting hit with interest and penalties. And those penalties, oh my God, the number they were putting, I'm like, whoa, back up. I paid it. And the penalties were almost the exact amount I had to pay.
So, Charles, do you have to have those same conversations with the IRS on Chris's behalf, or do you just do it
all the time?
Okay.
All the time. We take, for every one of our clients, we take a Form 2848 limited power of attorney. This allows me to advocate for my clients with the IRS. So I talk to the IRS constantly. We have lots of standard letters that we respond to constantly. The IRS makes millions of mistakes every year. Okay. On top of that, clients make mistakes. So when you add all this up, you have this huge thing. In 2019, the IRS issued $16 billion of employment tax penalties.
Let me get that number. Wait, one more time. 16 billion in employer tax penalties.
Employment tax penalties. That doesn't include interest. That's just the penalties. The interest was probably that again over time. They abated a great number of these because people like me went in and said, you're wrong. And in addition, this is something for your listeners. The IRS cannot penalize you for a simple mistake. They can only penalize you for gross negligence. Now, the trick is, who defines gross negligence?
I think Chris, he does gross negligence every weekend.
Well, the IRS is the people who define gross negligence. Now, in the end, it comes down to whether the court says it's gross negligence or not. So you have to fight the IRS to say, hey, this is a simple mistake. You can't penalize me. And if you do it right, you can win.
What is the definition of gross negligence? I mean, financially, right? Okay. All right. Yeah, good. Yeah, then I'm good then. No. Okay. In trouble.
Gross negligence is what the IRS says it is.
Was the IRS with you in Vegas?
Not exactly.
Okay.
So,
Different show.
Yeah, different gross negligence. What? No, you can't say that. All right. So yeah, obviously you fight the IRS, and that's two big gold nuggets. I want to make sure everybody got that up. You need to get that limited power of attorney and with a payroll person, because you don't want to be dealing with this stuff when you're trying to run your business, right?
I know it's worth every penny, isn't it? It's worth every penny
right.
to have
in
Charles do it instead of you.
In the beginning, when you're a really cheap dude, it doesn't seem like it. And I was there, guys. I was there. I was like, no. And I started fighting them. And I sent that fax to that fax land of nowhere. And then I finally went, oh yeah, it's worth every penny and then some.
Well, Chris, your CPA can take a limited power of attorney like I can. Most payroll companies can't. They don't have CPAs that will take professional responsibility.
So that's a great question to ask when you're vetting payroll companies, right?
Absolutely. Our biggest competitor, and I won't refer to them by name, but their initials
what does it rhyme with?
Well, their initials are ADP. Okay.
But we won't say them by name.
We won't use their name.
Yeah.
They've got CPAs. They've got a whole floor full of them up in Roseland, New Jersey. But they won't talk to clients, and they won't solve our clients' problems because they don't want to take the professional responsibility that goes with doing that. So a lot of payroll companies don't have CPAs, or in my case, U.S. tax court practitioner, on staff to be able to do these kinds of things. And you really want somebody that can advocate for you with the service, not just tell you what to say or what letter to send. You want somebody that can do it, because as a professional, I, in most cases, know more than the IRS does about what they're doing. I've been doing this for more than 30 years. I've studied it. I'm a CPA. I've read their rules. I've read their regulations. I read their handbook. I go through all that stuff constantly. They don't. They get moved from area to area and have to get trained in it and so on. So in many cases, I actually am instructing the IRS agents on what the law is,
like,
and
listen,
what their
Skippy.
regulations are.
I have a little something for you there, Skippy.
Yeah.
Junior. I got another answer for you. What else can I do to be constant? All right. So and so here's the magic number or magic thing. Nobody ever wants to say a number. So I got a small business, and I'm doing 150,000 in revenue the first year, maybe 300,000 the second year. How much do they pay for a payroll service? I'm 1, I'm 2, I'm 5.
How many employees you got?
Well, I got 40, but I'm talking about 45 now. But
okay, so say it's 5 people.
Yeah, 5.
Okay, maybe $100 a month.
There you
Probably
go.
less.
Are you serious?
Right. So let's talk about.
I've had clients say to me, "You can't do it for that price."
Yep.
And I go, "I do
Charles,
it for that price day in and day out."
You can't do that for that price.
So
Oh yeah.
So welcome to ADP and Paychecks land, people. So people who have talked to ADP and Paychecks are like, "Yep,
We're not mentioning them by name.
whoops."
But it rhymes with ADP.
I guess they're not going to be sponsors anytime soon either. Yeah, but I mean, I had quotes back when I was at 20, and it was going to be $650 a month. Yeah, and I was like, huh. So I did. I found another payroll service that is different, and again, worth all the money you just said. And if you just said 100, if you would have said 300 a month, I would have said, "Yep, you got to do it."
Oh, easy.
Yeah, because it is well worth all those headaches. I've watched companies go into what's chapter 7, chapter 11, whatever is the worst one ever. The worst one ever. I heard a guy who bought it right out of, was it chapter 7's the worst?
Seven's the disaster where they liquidate you.
Yeah. They're going to
11's the reorganization.
Yeah. All right. So 7, they're getting ready to go into 7. This guy buys their business. As he buys their business, the IRS tells him, oh, by the way, the business you're buying hasn't paid payroll taxes in the last 2 years. You owe us, or this whole thing will go to pieces. And so he had to find another incredible amount of money to put this whole deal together. I heard this story because it became a success story 15 years after, is that he sold it. But amazing, because you can absolutely get slapped on the wrist for not filing, but you can absolutely get taken to the woodshed and whipped to the pieces if you don't pay. That's the big thing.
And right? For your listeners, if you don't pay what you withheld from your employees, that is not dischargeable in bankruptcy. It is a personal debt and liability for responsible parties, which means anybody that could write a check or send the money to the IRS is a responsible party, and they will come after you individually and severably for the entire amount.
You don't want to mess with the IRS, bro. I'm just telling you,
No.
that is just something. Knock on wood, I have not had to, other than that one episode that happened. But every time I get a letter now, I'm just like, send it over, scan it over, say, John Charles, take care of it. I know I did everything right.
Yep, exactly. And that's what we do. The clients call us, and the first thing they say is, send me the letter, because it upsets them to no end, and they don't know what it means. And there's codes on it that tells me things that they have no idea what's going on. I get the letter and I go, don't worry about it. It's taken care of. It. In many cases, we've gotten a copy already and are already on top of it.
That is so key, because I can't tell you, I get that letter and already is blah, blah, blah. You're a bad person and we're going to come take your entire business. That's all I read. And then there's code after code after code. And I'm like, no. He's like, I got it. It's all taken care of.
Yeah, Charles is like a blood pressure medicine.
Phew, I need that. That is awesome. So, Charles, how many clients do you guys support today?
Roughly 1,000.
And you can take on more?
Oh, we're taking on more every day.
Every day. And so it's Get Payroll. So let's talk about the business it is. How can they find you today?
Get Payroll is all over the web. Getpayroll.com. My email is cjr@getpayroll. And if they've got something that they really need answered, 972-353-0000. Ask for Charles.
Gotta love that.
Putting it out there.
Hey, Chris, why don't you put your number out there?
Yeah, so it's 555-1212-1212. No, I put my email out there. I'll do it again, and it's Chris@thetrustedtoolbox.com. Anybody who wants to talk for 30 minutes about business, I'm out there to do it. Just got hit up 2 weeks ago. Got on the phone with a great guy. Going to talk to another handyman guy on Monday. After this, we're doing this episode we're laying this thing down on a Wednesday, but the guy just reached out to me and said, hey, you got a chance to chat? I've chatted with him before, but he's got another question for me. I'm like, yeah, man. I mean, willing to do it. Yeah. So Charles, you had a question for Charles?
I want to talk about his books, and I know you're avoiding it because he's written 4, and that's a lot more than you.
That's 3 more than me. I know. I just, but I liked my book. Somebody said, hey, what are you gonna put in the next book? See the first book. All right. So you wrote 4. What are the 4 books you've written?
Well, they're payroll and startup books. They're really out of date, but the most recent one is the payroll book, a guide for small business and startups. As I said, I found nothing in the industry for small businesses, so I said I'll write something. 2 years later, and with the help of Wiley and Sons as a publishing house, so we've got a book of 95,000 words that's basically 30 years of payroll experience distilled down to that 95,000 words. A lot of good stories.
Now, that's 25th on the bestseller list for this category.
In business books, it runs between 20 and 25 usually.
Yeah, I love it. See, the CPA just can't let himself go. See, that's the thing I love this, is that most guys will go out there and go, I'm a multi-million-dollar business. I've gotten 4 books. I'm a bestseller everywhere. But, he goes back to brass tacks and says, no, it's 2025. So that's the real deal. That's no bullshit, people. Go out there, check this book out. I have not, just because I think I'm probably beyond it because I just pay somebody else to do all that stuff. But if you're thinking about it, and a lot of guys I've talked to solopreneurs, 5, 10, want to scale up to 15 or 20. I mean, this is the real deal, man. You want to check it out.
So let me ask you,
I'll-
Charles, you
let,
wrote.
let me make a deal for your listeners.
Oh, okay.
If they will go to the payrollbook.com, enter the discount code podcast, I will ship them free of charge a copy of the book.
Say that one more time.
Whoa. All right, here we go. Gold nuggets.
If they will go to the payrollbook.com, the website, enter the discount code podcast, we will ship them free of charge, no shipping, no handling, no nothing, a copy of the book as long as supplies last.
That's amazing. Thank you, Charles.
Oh
That's
my
really
gosh.
cool.
That is awesome. Charles, thank you so much. So let's back this up. We've talked about, again, it was a great event at a college here locally with young entrepreneurs with their ideas, setting it out. And somebody asked me, so what do you think? I said, I don't care how old you are when you start a business. I said, but you just got to have a plan. You got to know what you're doing and stay after it. And it's hard work. I don't, again, the idea is the idea. It's the execution that's going to be the thing that's going to set you apart. So I said that to 3 different people last night. So Charles here, he's doing this, and he is doing this not at the ripe age of 21, 22 coming out of school. He's been at this for a couple of years. And I think that's the part where people, especially young people, I think they miss out. And I hope they're listening to this and thinking, you know what, sometimes every once in a while, some of those older guys kind of know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because Charles seems to clearly, seems to.
Yeah.
Clearly.
No, Charles has got it going on. I got a quick question. So basically, you wrote a book that competes against yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, but it's like this. Here's all the things you need to know, you need to think about. And when you get overwhelmed with them, my number's in the book.
Oh, beautiful.
Right. So I like that because I just got done saying I can show anybody how to do drywall repair. I can show anybody how to do crown molding. We'll put it in a video into YouTube. And then when they go try it themselves, they go, yeah, I think I'm just going to hire those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And when they call the IRS, and this happened to me because you get emotional about your own taxes. The IRS
Chris
screwed up.
gets emotional about a change in weather.
I get emotional. I get emotional when I'm behind somebody with 4 student driver stickers on their thing. But anyway, yeah, back to the IRS.
The IRS screwed up on my employment taxes. And being the expert, I just figured I'd call up the agent and explain to him what he'd screwed up. And he basically told me I was full of shit. And I find my voice rising, and I'm getting emotional, and I'm getting angry, and I find myself yelling at this asshole on the phone. In the back of my mind, I'm going, Charles, this is not good. Don't do this. And I'm yelling at him, and he proceeds to tell me basically where to go off and institutes a levy against my company.
Wow.
Whoa.
This was in the middle of COVID. It took me 2 weeks to get a hold of his boss. And when I got a hold of his boss, he said, well, Mr. Reed, no, he shouldn't have done that. And it's all gone away. No problem. And it did. But I know who to call.
Right.
Okay. And if you don't know how to, first of all, if you get upset, they're just going to do nasty to you. They'll do it. They're human. You get nasty to them, they'll get nasty in return. And if you don't know how to solve the problem, you're screwed. We had one client, it took 9 years for a simple mistake. The IRS wanted to penalize them $95,000. I ended up talking to the chief of appeals in DC and saying, Shelley, this guy who worked for her won't call me back. And she said, I'll have him call you. Because I knew her because I was on the IRS Advisory Council for 3 years. So he called me back that afternoon after a year trying to get a hold of him. We put it with another appeals office. And 3 months later, my client got a refund for $400.
That beats a sharp on the stick.
Yeah. Charles is a badass.
I love this.
That's because you know who to talk to and how to handle these things and how to advocate for your clients. If you don't know how to do this and you're not an expert at it, and we're an expert because we've spent 30 years learning all the ropes, you're screwed if you don't know how to do it.
All right, let's shift gears. We got a few minutes left, and I wanted to go back to back to the roots before you did the payroll. This has been amazing stuff, but I want to switch back. What are some common mistakes you see with people starting up when they set up their books and try to manage their own books?
First of all, they don't set them up.
No,
They don't get advice.
Number one,
They
set up your
don't.
books.
Yeah. You've got to have a separate checking account. You've got to have your company name on the checks. You've got to have a business account at the bank. You just
People
can't
don't know
operate this
that?
out of your.
I
People
mean,
don't know. Believe me, they don't know that.
I'm seriously, you're looking at me. It's everywhere. It's all over the internet. It's on the Small Business Association
No, they operate
website.
out of their pocket. They operate out of their pocket.
Oh my God.
And they don't keep receipts, and they don't keep track of mileage, and they just commingle expenses and revenues to make it impossible to audit properly. You got to set it up properly. That's the first thing, and get advice on how to do it. Talk to a CPA, spend an hour with him. He'll show you all the things you need to do in an hour. That'll keep you busy for a few months, getting all that set up.
Wow.
And you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how to hire people. You don't know how to classify people. Oh, I need somebody to do some work. I'll just pay them. Well, are they an employee or are they an independent contractor? Well, I'm just going to treat them as a contractor. No, you don't get that choice. There's a whole body of law that determines whether they're independent contractors or employees. And misclassification can cost you big time.
Oh boy, how about that?
Mhm.
So those are some big gold nuggets right there. First of all, don't commingle. Start the business separate. The way my CPA always laid it out for me was that don't pierce the corporate veil. You're going to set up an LLC. Do not commingle the funds. Don't pierce the veil. That way, nobody can come after you personally, and after all your assets behind the veil.
Yep.
How about that one, Alan?
I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm stuck on commingling. I'm thinking about his original franchisor, but that's a different kind of commingling.
Yes.
That's nice.
Thank you.
I like that. Okay. All right. So obviously know how to classify your employees. Got that. Got to write that down because I got to get these nuggets in. I'm writing this down because I definitely am doing it correctly. I'm not writing it down for everybody else.
You're writing more notes on this one than any other podcast interview we've ever had.
But I still pay people to do all this.
You have a little guilt?
Yeah, I know.
And if you're paying people, what taxes you have to pay, what reports you have to file, and when you have to file and pay them. You need to know what you don't know.
That is the gold nugget.
You need to know what you don't know.
Yeah,
especially
that might
when
be the title of this podcast.
You need to know what you don't know, especially when you're up at the IRS. It's 4th and 1.
Right.
Yep.
It's 4th and 1 with the IRS. You need to know what you don't know. Genius.
That's awesome.
So, Charles, how hard is it to write a book? Chris says it's really hard.
It is very hard. It is
but
a lot harder than I thought.
I mean, does it just mean you're a harder worker than Chris, or?
Well, I look at the quality of the 4th one, and it far surpasses the quality of the first 3.
Oh, so what's that saying about your book?
I'm saying my book. Well, obviously my book's never been in the top 25 in anything. So maybe I need to get the 4th book to get top 25. I don't know. God, you gotta check this book out. I actually just had somebody say, "Man, I and I'm still getting royalties, by the way."
Yeah,
yeah, at least tens of dollars a month.
Tens of dollars a month. That's really good.
No,
yeah, I'm glad I did not plan on getting rich off of writing the book.
Yeah, me too.
But it has brought me clients. So,
well, I was just going to ask, did it actually work? I mean, you're helping people, but then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, I need you."
Yeah, and you never know when you get it. And sometimes I get a client, and a year later they'll tell me, "Oh yeah, I had read your book," and I'm going, "Oh great, I love it." But yeah, we get cool. comments. We get comments on it all the time. So it's a good book.
No, that's great. Okay, we're coming to the end, and I hate to do this, but because this has been so many gold nuggets, and you're right, guys. I'm writing all over the board here. I've made a lot of those mistakes. I can't say enough about how cool it is to have somebody when you get that letter from the IRS and your blood just starts boiling and you start freaking out, going, everything I've been working for is just about to get flushed down the drain, and you can say to your CPA or your payroll guy who's got a CPA, get payroll that is, and go, "Man, I got a problem. What do you think?" And they go, "Got it." Yep. And you're like, and the first time it happened, you're like, "No way." No way. So I'm calling like every hour on the hour, right? And I'm just flipping out. And I've gotten a number of these letters over the years, either, taxes or payroll. Payroll was the big one, but the taxes stuff. It's just good to have that great relationship. So that can free you up, clear your mind so you can go back and do what you're supposed to be doing. And that's taking care of your business and making it grow.
Absolutely.
All right, Charles, we are coming to the end. You've done a great job of plugging yourself. We got that. We'll put those all in the show notes. And he's given you a great deal, man. The payrollbook.com. You put in the promotion code podcast and you get a free book about how to set up your own payroll. There you go, man. Go do it. I mean, why are you not doing it? Oh, I know why. Because there are 24 hours in a day and we only sleep in 3 or 4.
They could pause the podcast right now, do it, and then unpause.
Are you back? All right, we're back. All right, here we go. Because now we're going to our famous 4 questions. Besides your book, what book would you refer to all of our listeners who are looking to start a business or trying to scale?
Michael Gerber's The E-Myth Revisited.
Nice. Yep. Big one. Got 3 copies in my office because anytime somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm thinking about starting my own business, I just go,
I buy them by the dozen and hand them out to clients.
Nice. That's a great one. All right. What is the favorite feature of your home?
The view.
The view. All right. Well, talk us through the view.
Yeah, what are you looking at?
The whole downstairs is windows, big, huge windows looking out onto Lake Louisville.
Wow.
And since you're a cook, what's your, I gotta, this is my 2B question.
2B.
What's your favorite cooking? What's the favorite grill?
I don't do much grilling, but I won a contest for my apricot souffle.
Whoa.
Wow.
Apricot souffle. Ooh, I'm kind of me intrigued, my friends.
Maybe he'll send you the recipe if you.
You know what? Actually,
get his book.
I got his email, so I'm gonna actually just keep. Hey, where's the apricot souffle recipe? Can I get that? Can I get that? That's great. All right. When you're a customer and you're out there, what is a customer service pet peeve of yours?
This is true with accountants, and it's been true for many years, and it's something that I am absolutely insistent upon with my employees and my staff. We return phone calls.
Amen.
Accountants don't return phone calls because they always think it's a problem. It's not. And this is just between you guys and me. It's a way to increase revenue because you're solving a problem they have. So we return phone calls. I return every phone call that day. It may be 6 o'clock at night, leaving a voicemail on your message machine saying, I tried to get back to you. I know it's late. I'll try again in the morning. But we return all the phone calls.
Solid. I love that. I was part of a study. I've talked about this before. Here locally in Atlanta, I get to get Metro Atlanta's study on home services providers and what customers are looking for based on consumer feedback. They do the same study for lawyers. One of the number 1 complaints with all law firms is
they don't call you back.
They don't call you back. They don't communicate with you. They don't tell you the status. And I said this to a couple lawyers when I was on some of my shenanigans over the weekends, which are called, what are those called again?
Gross negligence?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I was on gross negligence. So I was talking to these lawyers and they're like, it's because we don't have any update. They were defending themselves. It was hilarious. They're like, well, we don't have an update. I'm like, you get that. I said, I get that you don't get updates, but they don't know that, man. I said, let me tell you about the home services world. If I don't tell them I'm on my way to their house, my guys don't tell them they're on their way to the house, they go to a deep, dark spot.
Very quickly.
And you guys think you're lawyers, so you're so much, because you bill out way higher than we do. And so, but they were sitting there defending themselves on this one. And I'm like, oh guys, you guys are so off. Do you have business managers? And they're like, no, we don't need them. We're lawyers. Of course you are. Okay. All right. Charles.
It's a ticking time bomb. And I mean, most people, it's human nature. Cause like, okay, I don't have anything to tell them and I don't want to make them mad because I don't have anything to tell them, but they would rather know that you're still thinking about them and you don't have anything to tell them. Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. And I tell you, we pound this into our guys all the time. And it still amazes me with some of our subcontractors. They won't communicate with you. Like, in fact, I had one guy call him and I said, hey, I just referred you to one of my buddies. What's going on? You're not getting over to him. He goes, I'm embarrassed, Chris. He said, I didn't have an answer for him. And I knew I was letting you down. And he said, and Tuesday turned into Wednesday, turned into Friday, turned into 2 weeks. And my buddy called me or texted me and said, "You trust this guy, right?" I'm like, 100%. So I had to get on the phone and like talk him off the ledge.
Jeez.
I'm like, dude, he goes, "I didn't have an answer." I said, "That's the wrong answer. Just call him, right? Just communicate. You're right. The worst they can say is, 'You suck. I'm going somewhere else.'" Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I tried. All right. Last question. We love home services. I obviously a remodeler and a handyman here in Atlanta, and Alan is a commercial real estate property manager, not property manager, seller. Sorry, I was thinking agent. He's an agent. He's an agent.
Where did
change
property manager come from?
because I just looked at the email that I should have.
Jeez.
All right. So you want
Squirrel.
what? Hello.
Yeah.
All right, we're back, and he's also good working on his house. So give us a DIY nightmare story.
The manifold on the upstairs tub cracked.
Uh-oh.
And what did
Yeah.
you do?
And where did it go?
Well, I noticed it because it was coming out of the light fixtures in the kitchen, the water.
That was only one story below?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
It can go more.
Well, that's
Chris?
as far
Is that
as
what you're saying?
that's well, it could go further, but that's as far as it got because we shut off the water and did some other things. And I still have some molding around one of the doors that needs to be replaced, but we had to tear open the wall to get it fixed. And that hole in the drywall sat for probably 4 years before we got it
Jeez.
fixed.
So obviously not an emergency. Thank you, Charles. If I was in Texas, I would come help you out at the Trusted Toolbox, but I'm not. But we'll take care of that mold. We can take care of that. Well, I don't do mold, but we can remove it. We just can't remediate it.
Yeah.
So
I've got a mold remediation and asbestos remediation company as a client, so we're good.
don't be afraid to call them. And if you have a drywall client, don't be afraid to call them either. Let's get it all finished. Okay. All right,
We
Charles.
got it
This has
fixed,
been awesome.
but took
Okay.
a while.
That's awesome. Charles, this has been amazing. Guys, if you haven't learned something here, go get Payroll. Go figure this out. I don't care if you got 1, you got 5, if you got 30. Thank God you got 30. Let's keep going. Well, maybe not thank God you got 30 because that's just 30 headaches. Okay, but I'm in the wrong
But
spot.
take advantage of the offer.
Let's do that offer. Let's get going. That's crazy stuff right there, man. Another great episode. Charles Reed, thank you so much for your books, for your contribution to the industry and everything you're doing. We're out of here. Let's go make it a great day.
Thanks, Charles. You're awesome.